Winning through adversity. Obviously, we want to have a winning culture, but things happen every day. I forget, I think it was Ben saying it, right? We get tons of no's, and it can be defeating. We go through a sea of no's to get to that yes. BDRs, I know that world. You're going to be making calls. I did it, 100 calls a day. Going through how many no's do I have to go through to get a yes? And the challenges that you deal with. And then there's going to be the sales process that you go and you thought everything was perfect. And then you get the no, and you're like, what did I miss? I talked about Chuck E. Cheese. We didn't actually win that. I was so pissed off. We went and interviewed someone, and we did the right things like we did the other time, and we didn't win that deal. And you're not going to always win. But it's also, how do you deal with that when you hit that loss? But I'm talking about like work stuff. On top of the work stuff, which there's more, you're going to have things like change at work, new leaders. You're going to have new processes, new tools. Hey, we need to adopt. Oh, hey, we need to do CRM notes. Hey, we need to actually, update the comp plan. We need to do this. That's change. It's how you deal with all that that's going to happen. Just so you guys already know, like, I think you guys hear this quote, right? The only constant is change itself. So you should expect the change to happen. And if you expect it, you'll accept it. And you'll be able to find if you know how you're going to win. But those are like, again, work things. You also have things that happen in your real life. And I bet there's a lot of people in here, like, we don't even know those things that are happening. We're talking about our customers at Rain that we know are going paycheck to paycheck, are dealing with stuff, flat tire, overdraft fees. They're not telling you. You don't know that. But the same way, we live those things throughout our careers while we're at home, dealing with personal drama, dealing with, kids, we've got 3 of them, or dealing with, just work stuff, finances, etc. Adversity is always going to happen. As this quote says, it basically is how you deal with it that allows you to know if you can win or not. So I'm going to give you guys a story. I'm going to go back, way back, right? No, but it's basically when I joined the company Paychex. And actually, just talking to a lot of people, I noticed, Lex, we were talking about, had that Paychex background. I don't know if you guys know, but Chris with the Paychex background. And I know there's some other people here. Trisha doesn't like to talk about it, but she worked there for a short stint. Boris at Paychex, etc. So again, some of these guys will hear some of the things about Paychex that they know. So right before I joined Paychex, I was actually at Living Social for 4+ years, working under VP of Sales Jen Terrell. So she was probably not happy that I left, but it is what it is at that time. I joined Paychex. So I actually, prior to Paychex, I had 2 jobs. One, I worked at the University of Phoenix, moved around the country, moved into leadership. Then I decided to take a step back from leadership and went back to being an IC. Again, personal things happened to me that I was like, you know what? I'm going to actually, go back and work as an IC because it makes more sense. It's actually financially much more lucrative. I joined Living Social when Daily Deals was a boom, and it helped me be autonomous in my work. It helped me take care of my firstborn daughter. It helped me do a lot of different things. So I'm going through my own personal life, and I decided to join Living Social. Well, then, fast forward 4 years, had a lot of success. I'm ready to make my next career move, and I decided to go to Paychex. Actually, everyone said, hey, you should go to either ADP or Paychex. I interviewed with both out in North Jersey, and I only chose Paychex because of the leadership team. That was it. I could have been on ADP, I could have been at Paychex. I was like, I like these leaders better than these leaders. That was the only decision. I had no clue about how they actually function, what the clientele was, what they're selling. I just joined. And then, I don't know if you guys know these, but there's so many divisions within these companies, right? Our partnerships team know this, but Paychex has payroll team, 401k team, health and benefits team, workers comp team, HR services team, PEO team. There's multiple divisions. 3,000 plus sales reps. I was one of them. I joined. So I'm taking on a new role. Already change. Got to learn a new industry. I just did something for 4 years, had a lot of success, but I'm ready to take that risk. So I go and I'm going to now basically be a 401k rep. They said, hey, you're going to be selling 401ks. You know what I said? I was like, sure, whatever. I don't know. I'm going to sell 401k. So I got to learn all this stuff. I become a 401k rep. I'm starting in July of 2015. I'm ready to change my career and do all this stuff. I joined Paychex. This is actually on the training. So for those of you that don't know, Paychex has it where you work about 4 to 6 weeks in the field that you're at. And then they fly everyone to Rochester, New York, and now you're having these training sessions with all the peers. So this is actually my peer group for 401k, FY17 July class, etc. That's the group. I I'm hidden in this picture, and I'll tell you why. Paychex had some rules back in 2015 that I'm actually shocked now when I look back at it. You can't have facial hair. So before I went to Rochester, my manager was cool with me in New Jersey. Again, Lex is nodding here because she knows these rules. They said, hey, you have to, when I showed up to training, they said, you got to go back to the hotel and shave now. I was like, what the hell? Like that sucked. I heard the rule. I was just trying to bypass it, but they didn't let me bypass it. So I had to do it. When I was in my North Jersey territory, they were fine with it because my manager was cool like that. Again, I chose the leadership that I wanted to work for. Then I'm here at this training. I had to shave. The other thing that you guys don't know, Paychex, incredible company, lots of awesome training. At the end of training, if you don't pass your test, you're fired. That's literally the rules. Again, Lex, she's had to do that. You have to do this intense test that you know all the stuff, all the product knowledge and how to work their process. And then if you don't pass the test, that's your last day. Thanks for coming to Rochester. We'll fly you back. No need to continue. You don't have to show back up to the office. That's how it is. And guess what, guys? I didn't get fired, so I was there. So that's not a problem. So it's not a sad story or anything. And then for those that don't know, like at Paychex, they actually pay very little base salary. ADP offered more. Paychex pays actually very little base salary. Chris knows this, being a long-term pay, but their comp plan is amazing. So if you're a top performer, you hit President's Club there, you're making significantly more money than most people at Paychex, and people don't leave because they're like, wow, like this is an awesome opportunity because I'm consistent and I can continuously hit these commission marks. So people stay there. So I was excited to join, even though I had to shave, I had to, the rules for women, I mean, you had to wear stockings, you can't show tattoos, like lots of, New York Yankee style rules. Again, in retrospect, I would never do that again. So I have my pre-rookie year. And what pre-rookie year means, I start in July, and their fiscal year goes from June to May. So pre-rookie was just, you start within the fiscal year, so you don't have a full year quota. So you're learning. You got to go to Rochester. So we go 6 weeks, we go to Rochester, we come back, we go for another 6 weeks that we're working with our manager and our teams, then they fly you back out to Rochester again for another week. At least this time they don't have the scary tests and stuff. You're just absorbing and learning what you've done, and you're just going through another additional boot camp style training for a whole week. And then you are kind of out of onboarding, and now you're out in the real world working. So, after about, when you add that stuff up, a couple months or so, 3 months, you're done, you're working, and I'm out of the field selling 401k and FSAs to small businesses. That's what my role was. I have a territory. I go out into my territory and I'm talking to small business owners about offering this benefit for their employees so they can recruit, retain, and engage that talent. Anybody ever hear those three things? This is what I was doing. I would sell the 401k, come to an actual company meeting, introduce them to 401ks, and tell people that they can actually improve their finances if they start a 401k now that their business owner is offering it to them. Because guess what? A lot of small business owners that have all these employees, they don't have 401ks like we do. That's what I was selling. And I was passionate about it. And so I'm selling these 401ks to small businesses, and I'm getting good at the role, solution selling. You do a couple calls, depending on if you one call close or a couple calls, but it is what it is. So I'm doing pre-rookie year. I finished the year on a prorated quota at 125% of plan. I was like, awesome, I did a good job. I was like, awesome. What was up President's Club? Oh, you don't hit that because you're a prorated quota. You actually have to hit your 4 years quota to get to President's Club. I was like, all right, makes sense. This is what my basically year looked like. I know it took 3 months to get going. Then we have our selling season, which is like November, December, January, because all these businesses are looking at benefits. So I have some peaks there, come back, then it slows down in February. Then I'm going back up like right before the fiscal year. So it's just peaks and valleys. How many of you guys have seen peaks and valleys in your sales process? Here's what it is, right? You have a lot of meetings because you did your prospecting. Usually when you're new or you're starting a new year, you're prospecting. Then after you prospect, you got all these meetings lined up. And again, over there, we had to really self-generate our business on our own. So you have to go out and you have to create this business for yourself. And now I have all these meetings. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go have these meetings all week and next week. And Paychex has it very structured, C3, set 3. So you really have to see at least 3 meetings a day. I go and see all these meetings. And while I'm doing these meetings, I'm not prospecting, so I'm just, going through it, selling my pipeline, etc. over the next 2 to 3 weeks. 1 call close, 2 call close, get them up, go do the enrollment meetings, get people excited about joining, etc. And then, come back, I look at my calendar for the next month, and I'm like, holy crap, I have no meetings for the next month. So now I'm like, I hit my peak, I had a great month, and now I'm like, oh my goodness, I haven't prospected. So now I have to spend all the time finding more meetings. So now I go to my valley, which is I don't have any closes, because I'm actually having to call and make meetings and find opportunities, walk outdoors, on the phone, whatever it was. And then I'm like, all right, I got all these meetings again. And now the next several weeks, I'm meeting a lot of clients, getting it going, my pipeline, and now I peak again. So it just happens throughout the year. This shouldn't be new. This should be literally, if you pull up your charts over the years of sales, BDRs, anything, I guarantee you most of your stuff is just like this. That's usually what happens in sales. I finished at 125%, so I'm peaking and valleying, but still staying at a high level, which is awesome. I don't win every month because we have monthly quotas there, but I did enough to be okay at the company. I was 125% plan, just came off of Living Social where I was a top rep, and I was like, I felt defeated. I was like, damn, I thought I did good, but everybody just looked at it like, yeah, good job, prorated quota, you didn't have conference, which is President's Club, and you really only won 4 months because you had some big months, and then it's down. So I was already like a scrub in their eyes. I was like, damn, I'm a scrub. So what I thought about was, okay, I learned from my fiscal year, and this again ties back to all the stuff. I have to get better. I want to be better. So then in FY17, which now will be the next year, it'll be my full year quota. We're gonna start in June. So in May, while I'm finishing up the fiscal year, I'm planning out my actual business plan. All right, what's my quota for the next year? All right, that's $270,000 as my annual revenue. How do I break that down for each month, and what do I need to get? And then let me break it down and go, if that's my goal, this is my closing ratio, how many appointments per week do I need to do? And what's my average deal size do I have to have? This is me just breaking down my business plan to go, I am not gonna be a scrub this next fiscal year. I'm gonna improve by doing a couple specific things. One is I'm gonna make sure I have 15 appointments a week. Because we could say we want 15 appointments a week. You could say however many your goal is for each week. It's what you do to make sure you're going to have those meetings. It's not about that actual goal. It's are you doing the things to hit that goal? So I'm going to have 15 appointments a week. I'm going to see 3, set 3. I'm going to create consistency with my prospecting to make sure I never miss a month again. I'm also going to work on my NSS conversion. Anybody know what NSS is? Lex? Boris? That's the BDR program at Paychecks, the lowest converting opportunities at Paychecks. They set up meetings. Those meetings you show up, and the people I don't even remember talking about anything, or oh no, I don't even own the business, or oh, I actually don't want to meet. And it's like the worst meetings to be driving out somewhere that a BDR set up, and then you can't do anything with that meeting, and now just wasted a day, because if I have 3 of those and I didn't control my own destiny, I'm literally wasting gas, wasting time, wasting road time, all the windshield time, etc. So I was like, I'm gonna make my NSS conversion one of the highest opportunities ever, whatever I need to do to improve it. And again, it's not about just the goal, it's gonna be how I do that. And then I wanted to not only hit President's Club, I was like, I'm gonna hit this number, and this is actually higher than the quota. I'm gonna hit the Circle of Excellence number. So they had 3 levels of President's Club, right? You have your inner Circle of Excellence, your Circle of Excellence, and your conference status, which is you just hit President's Club. And there's compensation extra for there's additional perks, like you could bring a +1, etc. So I'm like, I need this one. So 1, my wife will come with me. 2, I get additional bonus, all that stuff. And then I wanted to be 12-0 because no one was 12-0, meaning every month you hit your actual number. It was always peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. Everybody, I just told you, sales, you guys can look at your numbers. I guarantee you, majority of the people and look it up, it's peaks and valleys. I was like, how can I be 12-0 and win? Because they talked about that, but nobody actually hits it. I want to differentiate everyone else. There's, again, 3,000 sales reps. I want to be the guy that did 12-0, right? There's going to be probably 1,000 people at conference, 700 or so, that everybody's going to be like, yeah, they're President Clubs. But how many of those were 12-0? So I was like, I'm going to make that my goal. At the same time, I also wanted to do really well because I had the aspirations to go back into leadership. So now I put that plan. I'm like, if I hit Circle of Excellence, I hit 12-0, I create this process that's going to help me. I'm going to actually win. I'm going to get promoted and basically move into leadership again because I'm ready to do that. So I focused on all these goals. I set up this plan. What am I going to start doing? I'm going to create relationships with my partners to maximize lead potential. I'm going to generate more. I took this of a screenshot, so I don't even remember what I wrote. Book a minute, 3 appointments, right? Improve my conversion. Utilize Salesforce to track opportunities. All the things that I need to do. What am I going to stop? What am I going to continue? Why am I going to do that? So that's, finishing it up May, ready to start June 1st. June 7th, Zoe Lo Roman was born in 2016. So her birthday just happened about 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks now. So Zoe was born on June 7th. So again, motivation, like, oh man, I got to do this for Zoe too. About 3 weeks after Zoe was born, so my wife and I, how many of you guys have kids? Raise your hand. When they're, and a lot of people too, when they're a baby and it's like, they might be crying, but like, you don't know why, right? Because they can't tell you. So it's like, hey, they're crying. I was like, I don't know, are they hungry? Do they need a burp? Or do they need a diaper change? That's literally the 3 things, right? Courtney just had a recent baby. That's the 3 things, right? Is there anything else that you'd be thinking? Or maybe sick, right? That would be it. So Zoe's crying one night. This is like literally at the end of June. And my wife is like, we need to go to the hospital. I was like, babe, like, you want to go to the ER in the middle of the night because she's crying? I mean, maybe she's hungry. Maybe she's, sleepy, or whatever, or, agitated and then burp or needs to change, right? She's like, we need to go. So we go to the ER. It's not far from me, about 7 minutes from where I live. Chilton Hospital, it's actually where Zoe was born. So we go to Chilton Hospital and, we wait. They take her in. The doctor sees her and was like, yeah, I think she's, has a little bit of fever. She's probably just have some upset stomach and, not feeling well. Maybe we need to change the formula or something like that. And, we go back home and we're like, all right, it wasn't anything. That's great. Literally a couple hours later, Zoe's crying, whatever, and my wife's like, something's not right. And I'm like, what do you want to do? Because I'm a good husband, whatever you want to do, right? Because I'm not going to say at this point, like, come on, maybe you're crazy. Like, so we go, all right, she's like, let's go back to the hospital. All right, back to the ER, it's us again, etc. We'd like to see a different doctor. Like, that was the point, right? So see a different doctor. Doctor takes her and, they do some sort of, I don't even remember what they did back then. And it was like, Zoe had 2 strokes and currently having seizures and needs to be intubated immediately. And not only that, they can't actually take care of her at the Chilton because it's not like a major hospital. It's just a small regional Atlantic Health hospital. And they're like, we need to transport her to Morristown Children's Hospital where they have it. Also, we need to find a doctor that could intubate her right now because there's nobody on staff that could intubate a baby. And so we're like in shock. So we're waiting for the doctor to show up. So they did get somebody on call to come over there and the doctor's going to intubate her. And they were like, if you want, like, we can start heading to the hospital and we'll transport her at Morristown. It's about 20 minutes away. My wife's like, I'm not going anywhere without my baby. So she's there. My wife's aunt also shows up, who's a nurse, so she drove in to help. And then I was like, all right, I'll head to the hospital to get ready, make sure they're all set. They have space for her, so we're not waiting or anything like that. So I go to the hospital. Now I'm at that other hospital with my father-in-law, and we're just waiting. And now I have to wait. This is in the middle of the night. So they transport her eventually. They intubate her, transport her to the hospital. I've just been sitting there, and she shows up, and they take her to the PICU, PICU pediatric ICU, and they connect her to the machines, etc. And this is like the weekend, so we're now just waiting to see what happens, right? So, all right, what do we need to do? So Zoe's intubated in the hospital. She's basically has bacterial meningitis, GBS, I think is the initials, but it's bacterial meningitis. Something's happening with the brain, and we're trying to see what they're going to do. They're going to try to see medicines, etc. And basically, my wife and I are just now waiting. So we're in this hospital, we're waiting. This is through the weekend, and we're not going anywhere. So eventually, people bring us stuff, clothes, etc., whatever, and we find out the GBS thing, and it's actually very rare, happening after birth. GBS typically happens at birth, and after birth, it basically, is rare. So they're like, it's not a good thing because we don't see this and we don't know how to treat it. So then she, so we're at the hospital. The doctors tell us all this. She's on a machine, and Monday comes around, and we're at the hospital. I talk to my leader, and I'm like, hey guys, I'm at the hospital. This is what happened. I'm not gonna be able to work. And this is again, beginning of the fiscal year, ready for my FY17, amazing year. And we go, I talked to the leader, and the leader was like, Shohan, you don't have to work. And I get it. But Mike, and a lot of you guys know Mike Zamansky, who's that leader at that time, was like, I can't not work. Paychex also has it when you don't log in 3 days, it automatically takes you off and puts you on leave. So now you get deactivated from all your services and systems and things like that. So I'm like, Mike, I can't not work. I got 2 other kids. I got to make sure I'm hitting my commissions. I got to make sure the base salary or FMLE, like, it's not going to do anything for me in order to take care of my family. So he's like, you don't have to, but if that's what you want, that's fine. We work out a plan. I was like, I have plans. I have to take care of stuff. So he cut out a territory close to the hospital for me to be able to work. And I was like, I appreciate it, Mike. Let me just do what I got to do. He said, you don't have to come into the office, because at that time it was a remote world. We would go to the office. He's like, just take care of what you need. If you need us, I'm here, whatever. He sends gifts, things like that. Fantastic leader. This is also why I worked for him for 7 years, including at Daily Pay. And, you know, some people don't know. They're always like, why did you follow Mike and stuff like that? Because you think like he's not the greatest leader, but I was loyal to him. So I go through that. So now I'm like, all right, I got to focus on work. It's actually one of the things that helps me get my mind out. But I also have to crush this goal. I have to be there for my wife. I have to make sure my daughter is okay. So now I had to start a new routine. This is why it really impacted me and changed my life, because now I woke up. So to give you a little story, like, there's 8 like bedrooms in this side of this hospital by the PICU that people can sleep in. And then they have a communal shower, a little waiting room where families are hanging out, toys and stuff like that. And then it walks into the PICU. So I was actually living in this room while my wife was living in the room where my daughter was at. And I wake up every morning at 6 a.m. I go down, I go get my wife coffee. I get breakfast. We sit down, we have breakfast together till about 8 a.m. right there in the PICU, right? Open room. You know, you can close the little thing, the curtain. Zoe's sitting there, intubated or in the little box or whatever. And 8 o'clock, we hang out, we're just spending time. I go back into the room that I was at. I go to the room, there's a little desk, it's a little bed and TV, that's it. It's just like a small room. I pull up my computer and I start prospecting, like 8 o'clock. Prospect, small business owners, they're in the office before 9 o'clock, before they open. I call the small business owners, who can I meet today that's around me by the hospital? I try to set up my week. Sometimes I get like NSS meetings booked. So I'm calling to confirm them, and I'm basically trying to build up my calendar to have meetings that week. I have to have meetings if I want to hit my number. So I do that from 8 to 10. My wife's in the room, I go 8 to 10. 10 o'clock, I go back into the room where Zoe's at, and at that time, this is like a teaching hospital. So Grey's Anatomy, right? Everybody sees it, they go around. So 10 to 11 is when the team goes around. So you have to just kind of wait. So I go from 10 to 11, I'm with my wife again, finish my prospecting, and I'm sitting there, she's sitting there, the doctors come, and then they kind of just tell you what they're going to try to do that day. We're going to try this medicine, we're going to try to uncover it, we're going to send her for these tests, we're going to do this, and that's it. They came out one time a day, and then they're gone. 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, lunch is getting served. I eat with my wife. We spend time eating lunch. 12:30, I leave into the territory. I get in my car. I get ready for my 1 o'clock appointment that I've booked. Because at Paychex, you have only appointments at 1, 2, 30, and 4. That's the structure. 1, 2, 30, 4. See 3, set 3. Set 3 appointments every day. You see 3 appointments every day. You follow this process, you're going to crush it. I make sure I have my 1, 2, 30, and 4. I have those meetings. If a meeting gets canceled or no-shows, then I go walk the streets, right? Field salespeople know this in territory. You basically pull doors. You're going and introducing it. You're trying to set up additional meetings. You're calling people that are in your territory to pull in sooner so you can make sure you have that meeting spot filled. We can't not have a meeting. We cannot have a blank space at 1, 2, 30, or 4. So I have these meetings. I go do all the things I need to do. 5 o'clock, once I'm done with my last meeting, I go back and I have dinner with my wife, like basically around 6 o'clock. And then I tell her to go take her break. She's been sitting there all day. People are visiting her throughout the day. And then she goes and basically takes a little breather, her me time, right? Go take a shower, go rest, take a nap, whatever. I'm in the thing. At 7 o'clock, I'm now doing all my admin from the day. Follow-ups, whatever I had to do. Send a proposal, schedule another meeting, email this and back and forth. And then I will do that till about 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock is when she comes back and she spends the night, because at 10 o'clock only one parent could stay there, and they could only spend the entire night at the hospital in that room. So at 10 o'clock, I go back to my room, and I'm actually at that time is my me time. I have my PS at that time 3 or whatever it was, my PlayStation, play my video games till about midnight, and then I'm going to bed, and then I wake up at 6 a.m. and I do the same thing again. This was my day, every day, for 6 weeks. Weekends, I would go back home, switch our clothes and stuff like that for me and my wife, go see the other kids. More family would come over the weekends, make sure my in-laws were good, make sure my parents were good, taking care of the kids, and then same routine, Monday through Friday. That was literally how I did it. So then I do this for 6 weeks. I show back up to the actual office, and then people were actually shocked, like, oh, shoot, we didn't even know you worked here, because I've been just doing this on my own, discipline, trying to make sure I'm following that schedule, because my calendar and my schedule was my lifeline. Not only for Zoe, for myself, but also even my relationship with my wife. And now we go through this, and even after the hospital, when she got out after 6 weeks, she has to go through occupational therapy, she has to go through physical therapy, she has to go through neurology visits, she has to take seizure medicines, everything is still there. So this stuff is all there, even though now we're at home, but just applying it, the same stuff that was happening in the hospital at home to help Zoe. But although I was doing that 6 weeks, everything, my focus on my calendar didn't change, and it allowed me to be 12-0, June, February, every month. Hit my quota was not an issue. Hit the 270,000 mark, not an issue. Circle of excellence, went to the Bahamas with my wife, not an issue. I hit every month, and I was super happy. I also got promoted at that point to a new leadership role. And I'm not sharing this to go, hey, pat on the back, great job. I'm sharing this because when it comes down to it, you have to have your why, your purpose. Dan Pink in Drive says, people, money aside, are driven by purpose. And we all work in a mission-driven, purposeful organization. So you have to have a why. It's not just about that bonus check or your quota number. There's something behind that. You heard Ben talk about his idea of the vision and purpose of like becoming bought by $1 billion company, etc., things like that. Like, you have to have a why to drive you. You also have to have a plan. I set up those plans when it came to how am I going to improve my NSS conversion. I did 48-hour confirmation. I did critical feedback with those BDRs. I did a lot of little things to make sure my plan was executed. I made sure my prospecting was every day from a certain amount of time, and who I was going to call and what I'm trying to achieve in those calls, and making sure what those next steps are, so that way I had my plan to see 15 appointments every week. And then I had to manage my time. My calendar was my lifeline. It was all about, am I executing every hour of the day that I needed to? And this is why, when you look at my calendar, people are like, oh my goodness, what's going on? I was at the SHRM session that Trisha hosts, and it was basically 75 HR professionals. I pulled up my calendar, and they were like all just freaking out. And I was like, that's my calendar. But my calendar is my lifeline. It's how I know that I'm being productive every day, that I know that I can actually accomplish what I need to. This is how I was able to be 12-0. And then since that happened, it's been exactly the same for 9 years. It doesn't change. I'm going to give you guys a few pro tips. I'm going to go through it fast because I know we're getting close on time. But I'm going to give you guys pro tips on like how I manage my calendar, so that way you could actually take some takeaways and go, can I apply this to my day-to-day? The first thing is white space. I actually see white space, and I that to me that's the you guys see my calendar, I see white space, and it's like white space is basically space that if I asked you right now, last Thursday, June 12th, what'd you do from 2 to 4 in that white space? How many of you guys were like, I know exactly what I was doing and what I achieved? Good job, Jesse. But most people don't remember what you did the day before yesterday. If I said, hey, 2 days ago, what was your all day like? Most people don't remember. Yes, you can pull up your calendar, but if you don't have it there, you're not going to remember it. White space is how you can really differentiate how you know what you're doing and being productive, right? So there's people that will have a lot of white space. There's people that are, a little bit better, and they have almost like a reoccurring. And to me, it's like, all right, you kind of are doing it. You have like more of a checklist. Or there's people that block out everything because it's like, hey, if it's not blocked out, it's not happening. I'm big on making sure my calendar is public at all time. If you go to my calendar right now, every single one of you guys can see what I'm doing. But it's because collective excellence. I need to make sure my team knows where I'm at, what I'm doing, what you could book over, what you can actually, see that I'm unavailable or not because of what it is. And that ties into work-life integration. You go look at my calendar, you know when Zoe's cheer camp is, or I'm going to Milani's play, or I'm going to basically help individuals with whatever it is I'm doing, but whether it's public or meaning work-related or work or home life, it's all integrated. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in work-life integration. I have one calendar. It shows everything. I color code my calendar every time so I can see where my time is spent. I was at Daily Pay, the leadership meeting, and we all looked at calendars and said, how many hours were you actually coaching? And nobody could actually, figure it out. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna just color code all my stuff the right way, etc. And now you can go, like, did I spend the time in the right place as a leader or as a rep? Am I spending it on revenue generating? Can you say how many hours of prospecting you did last week? How many hours of, meetings did you have? How many hours of prep did you do? So I color code in order to make sure I know all that stuff. I have time zones for everything. I never want to be the person that messes up a time zone for a meeting. Right? I worked at a global organization in my last company, and I had people from London to Australia. I needed to make sure I was on top of my time zones. I use extensions and integrations, right? Clockwise, putting all my focus time in one place, or the insights that you can get by color coding. There's so many tools we can use. I put title, agenda, notes to make sure I know what that time is for and what you know what that time is for if you're in that scheduled meeting with me as well. I track my results. I made calls at this time to this time. This is who I called. I want to see how many voice-to-voices I get, actual meetings booked, how many hang-ups, how many gatekeepers. I tracked it when I was doing this at Paychecks. So I can know, is that the best time to call, or do I need to change it up on my own and figure out what I want to do at this next agenda that I booked? I planned weekly and daily. I literally, on Friday, make sure my entire week is set for the next week. I show up on Monday, I look at my calendar again, end of the day, I look at it again. If I need to adjust things and prioritize, I figure out what I need to do so my days are always productive. I had a call last Tuesday with just an external networking with a prospective candidate, and they're like, oh, how's your day? And I pulled up my calendar, I was like, nothing moved. It was a great day. I didn't have to move anything, I didn't have any cancellations, I didn't change. It went exactly as planned. That was a great day. But I plan it weekly and daily, maniacal about my calendar. It's my homepage. It's what I look at all the time. Then when you look at it and you have it color-coded, yes, Jesse?
Can I just say, Shohan ran this workshop for me, 6, 7, 8 weeks ago. Amazing timing is I picked up a big project management program and I lead 8 reps. This is huge. This is huge. Planning your work and working your plan. This is some of the best guidance and mentorship I've gotten on something that seems so simple and straightforward. But implementing this is a huge game changer for just being efficient and being effective.
So when I color code like this, I could actually see how much time did I spend with a partner this week? 8 hours. How many times am I interviewing? Maybe I didn't have none. How many times am I meeting with executives, networking externally? All the things can tell me. You can see my work-life balance, Zoe softball game. Milani had prom, so after this happy hour at Total Source, I had to actually make sure I got back for that. Everything is there. I can show everyone. You know when you can bug me. You also know when you're slacking me and I'm doing something. So I'm very big on making sure your calendar looks like this. I saw this literally the other day, I think over the weekend. And I just thought I added it last minute on the slide. If you're not using your calendar, you're not in control. Every blank spot is permission for someone else to own your time. Block it and own it. A full calendar isn't confinement. It's clarity. It's freedom. Have something to do, block it. Have a meeting, block it. Going to an appointment, block it. Surrendering your day starts with empty space. And I share all this because it's not about just go do it. After this summit, you go do it for a week or 2 or maybe a month. It's about being consistent. Doesn't matter. Week over week, it's the same thing. Blocked out, color-coded since day one for 9 years. Haven't stopped. People go, oh my God, Shohan, you've done so much, 90 days, whatever. You must be working 60 to 80 hours a week. I work 45 hours a week. That's it. If you're working more than 45 hours, it's not because the work's hard or something. It's because you don't manage your day. You're not productive. I work 45 hours a week. My wife actually loves it. I never work more than that. I know exactly. If I'm on hey, I got to go see a session or go to the middle of the day, I got to go to Zoe's appointment, it doesn't matter. I just make up that time later, either that evening or over the weekend. So yes, I might be working on the weekend, but that's because I took time out of the week to take care of some personal or my work-life balance stuff. So it didn't matter. I just got the job done, but I didn't work more than 45 hours because I planned it exactly what I needed to do and I executed on it. As Zoe has dysgraphia, Zoe has seizure medicine, Zoe is on an IEP, Zoe has to deal with a lot in her life moving forward. She's here at the softball game, great base hit, they don't let him go past, maybe she could have gone to second, but she was won the game ball, etc. But Zoe's here to win. Zoe's gonna win regardless. Zoe's going to be set up so that way she's a winner regardless of the adversity now that she has to go through and all the challenges that are going to come up in life and all the things that we could all make excuses about every day. So if anything, and I know we're at time almost or past, want to make sure you guys know your why and your goals. That is important. And then you have to have a plan. We're helping you guys with that. This week, the whole point of it is let's give you guys the plan to get better and execute. How do we have flawless execution? Trust the process. Here it is. And then manage your time with purpose. If you're just blocking out for the sake of blocking out, doesn't mean anything. If you're just blocking out your team meetings and just the appointments you have, doesn't mean anything. But if you're purpose and intentional and consistent, every one of us can win. Cool? All right.